name is Megan Jansen with Employee Wellness Solutions Network. I'm very excited today to be presenting a webinar on stress, specifically sharing some self-care tips. And I've divided this into two parts. Part A is about 10 to 15 minutes long, and we're going to be talking about specifically healthy eating when it comes to stress, as well as dealing with stress through relaxation. So very excited to share these 6 tips with you. Part B, we'll look at 4 more tips pertaining to sleep and movement to deal with our stress. So let's get started right away. The first thing I like to talk about, strategy number 1 when it comes to dealing with stress, is ensuring we have enough energy. And by energy, I mean consuming our food. Because if we consume good food on a schedule, and you'll see here eating every 3 to 4 hours is ideal, it trains your system to know it's not needing to hold on to food for later. And so if we can choose to eat every few hours, it's really, really helpful to ensure we have the energy to deal with whatever we need to deal with. One of the other things I wanted to mention with timing is never wait until you're starving to eat something. Oftentimes we overconsume. The other thing is we sometimes choose unhealthy choices sometimes. So high calorie or high fat, high salt foods when we're really, really hungry. So if you can think about training your system to know it's being fed on a schedule, that's really going to help you feel satiated, satisfied, and really ensuring you have enough energy to get you through what you're going through. So ensure you're eating, which is really, really important. The second strategy I want to talk about is ensuring that we're eating well around 80% of the time. Now, I talk about this as the 80-20 rule, healthy choices 80% of the time, letting loose 20% of the time. Never, ever would we ever want to promote eating any one way 100% of the time, because realistically, that's just unattainable for most people. If we can think about giving ourselves a bit of leeway with choices, yes, 70 to 80% of the time, choosing the right things, and then 20% of the time, having your treats, enjoying what you want to enjoy, having that dessert, you can create that nice balance. It's all about finding your balance. So healthy energy choices are really, really important. You see a few ideas here: beans, vegetables, fruits, lots of different fish, milk products, yogurts, all sorts of things. So we'll talk about different healthy energy choices coming up, but these are just a couple of examples. Now, when it comes to healthy energy on a plate, again, remember we were talking about the timing of your meals, ensuring you have energy. Well, just as important is the choices that we make. So this gives you a bit of a visual on what your plate should look like. And I like to tell people, make a fist and see how many servings of fruits and vegetables you actually get in a day. Most people are about 2, if not 3. We need a lot more than that. 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day seems like a lot. But if we can think about our lunch and our dinner at least with half of our plate fruits and veg, take your lunch right now, put it on a dinner plate, and line it up just like you see here. That way you can be a bit aware of what you're actually eating. Is there color? Is half of your plate vegetables and or fruit? Do you have some healthy protein in there? Some meats or some dairy products, beans, nuts? What sort of proteins do you have there? As well as what sort of complex and carbohydrates do you also have? Things like whole grains, some really, really great examples here. So take a look at your plate. How are you doing with that? And really try to stick with half your plate fruits and veg. That's really the moral of this story, is choosing your food properly. 80% of the time is making sure you get enough plant-based foods. Now that's energy for giving us the energy to deal with what we have to deal with. The second part to this is how can we ensure we have sustainable energy? So energy to get us through our day. And so this really looks at what types of proteins and healthy fats can help us ensure we're getting enough healthy energy to deal with our stress. And so this is what we're setting this up for. You see here different examples of proteins. You've got beans and your chicken and your eggs and lots of different things like nuts and seeds. You also have fish, avocado, walnuts are also healthy fats. And we want to make sure we have some protein and healthy fats paired up each time we eat those 3 to 4 hours during the day. Because if we can do that and not just focus solely on carbohydrate, we'll actually be able to have sustained energy. And that's really, really important. So think about ways in which you can pair up your carbohydrates with your proteins. An example might be cut up piece of apple with some peanut butter, or maybe a little bit of yogurt and some nuts, or maybe some crackers and cheese. So pair those up properly so you can ensure you've got that energy that we need to deal with what we're having to deal with. The third strategy I talk about is try to avoid these things. And I'm going to pull these up as a few things that you might want to just be aware of. Too much of anything isn't ideal and isn't healthy. Specifically, choosing foods and beverages that have a lot of sugar, that might have a lot of caffeine and other things in there. So you see here energy drinks. Please do not drink these. Tell your kids not to drink these. We work long hours, long nights. We're dealing with a lot, and oftentimes we look for that quick fix. And oftentimes not oftentimes, but sometimes we might choose the wrong things. So even in your 20% of not really worrying too much about what you're choosing, try not to choose these, because energy drinks are full of sugar, caffeine, lots of really dangerous things that can cause us harm. You'll also see here a pile of chocolate. And this is just a visual to help you understand that if we eat too much sugar, we can start to have adverse effects of it just tasting good and giving us a little bit of a sugar high. The problem is if we overconsume this, it can cause us some problems in the long run. So we can eat sugar, we crave sugar, we eat sugar, we crave sugar, we eat, we crave, we eat, we crave, and it's hard to get out of that sugar crave cycle. So if we can avoid this in too much consumption, we can really start to watch how many different things we're putting into our bodies that can actually contribute to stress levels. So watch that, don't go overboard. The other thing you'll see there is coffee, caffeine, and different things that we want to avoid. And when we're presenting on site, I often say, how many you drink? 1 cup a day, 2 cups a day, 3 cups a day? How about intravenous? So, you know what, all jokes aside, 1 to 2 cups of black coffee or black tea a day is great. It's actually not harmful. There's actually some antioxidant properties. Where we get into a bit of a problem, though, is if we overconsume caffeine. Over-consuming caffeine can wreak lots of different havoc in our system, sleep and motivation and energy and all sorts of things. So just again, watch what you're doing with your caffeine intake. Herbal teas, caffeine-free teas, go for it. Just watch the caffeine that we consume in chocolate, in caffeine beverages, in soda, pop, energy drinks, all sorts of things. So watch your stressful eating habits and be aware of maybe and you can even log it when you're stressed, what you're consuming, because oftentimes they're related. Just watch that. I like this slide. This is our zebra. I think it's stress. Stress is absolutely an energy zapper. And so what I'd like to go through is just a bit of information, I think, pertaining to stress and how it actually comes to be. So our adrenal glands are tiny little glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and they are really can cause a lot of problems with our stress levels, our cortisol, and all sorts of different hormones and different things that get popped out of these adrenal glands. And these adrenal glands can get overworked, which can cause a lot of adrenal fatigue. And oftentimes when we're feeling overwhelmed or overstressed, these adrenal glands are working overtime. Sleep disturbances, some different concerns with digestion, irritability, anxiousness, all of these things can be directly linked to what stress levels and stress hormones are actually getting pumped out into the system. So just very simply, this is a very simple way of looking at it. There's lots of different bodily and physiological functions that happen, but realistically is these adrenal glands, if they're overworked with pumping up too much stress hormone, yes, we need some. If that flight or fight areas of focus. So they have to pump out enough cortisol and stress hormones to fight. They also need to do that if we're needing to run away from something. So that stress dump, like I like to call it, can actually be looked at as something you might be able to control a little bit of through different ways of relaxing. And so in terms of the fourth strategy is keeping your stress levels in check. Excuse me. If you find yourself really dealing with a lot at home, a lot at work, a lot with your kids, a lot with your own personal stress, take a break. If you can just take a mini break, 1 minute to 2 minutes in length every hour, get up, stretch those shoulders, stretch those legs. If you're already doing a lot of walking and standing and moving in your job, can you take a bit of a breather, slow it down for a minute, once an hour? It can be really beneficial to start that eliciting that relaxation response. So slowing down that dump of stress hormones into the system. Too much stress hormone into the system can be detrimental. So we want to think about this as keeping your stress in check. And by doing that, try to take some breaks. As hard as it might be, even if it's just 10, I'll talk about this next slide, 10 deep breaths to just get yourself focused, refocused on something else. So try that. I'd love to hear how it goes. The fifth strategy of de-stressing in terms of self-care is finding ways to relax, and I should have the word every day highlighted. This is something that we're so used to not doing, is relaxing every day. And how can you do that? One of the things that I really like to share is called deep belly breathing. As silly as that sounds, by breathing really deep through your belly, 10 times twice a day can really help you, again, relax. So those of you who are on your feet a lot, those of you who are doing lots of different things through shifts and different long shifts that you're working, this can be really beneficial. Is in that minute that you take once an hour or once every 2 hours, try to do this just to recenter yourself and try to get your energy levels back to where they need to be. And this deep belly breathing is a really great example of that. You just put your hand on your belly, and babies, you often see it when they're sleeping, their bellies go up and down. That's what we want to achieve. So if you just sit there or stand there with your hand on your belly, make your belly move in and out as you breathe in and out, do it 10 times a day. It is honestly one of the best things we can do to try to relax. The second tip here under relaxation is create buffers. And I love this strategy. Before work, after work, before you go to sleep, you need about a 10-minute, if so, shorter if you need it, but 10 to 15-minute buffer zone where maybe it's the drive to work, between a stressful home life to work, there's that buffer zone. What can you do in your car, in your commute, on the bus, on your walk that can get you ready for the next stage of your day? After work, you leave work, you get home. Is there a 10 to 15-minute buffer that you can just be quiet, relaxed before you start your home stresses or your home life? The one before sleep, I think, is the most important. So instead of the busyness of your workday, getting home, getting dinner, getting the kids ready, watching your CSI show at nighttime, jumping into bed and expecting to fall right asleep, doesn't really work for most people. You need the end of your day before you go into falling asleep, you need that buffer zone. And so a 10 to 15-minute time frame where you can absolutely relax before you fall into deep sleep. It's only going to help your sleep. The third piece here on relaxing is trying to find ways in which you can read or listen to audio or something that's going to make you feel good. And this is something that I like talking about a lot. There's different ways in which you can do this. There's lots of different ideas here on practicing gratitude, positive thinking, which we'll talk about in part B a little bit. Different ways in which we can self-develop. And oftentimes when we're dealing with a lot of stress, hey, I'm no different. I deal with a lot of stress too. There's different books that, again, I really like, and these are a few of them. The one there in the bottom right-hand corner is called Peaks and Valleys by Spencer Johnson. He's a doc. Phenomenal read. Real short, can really applicable, and it can change your perspective a lot on the ups and downs of what we have to deal with every day. So really, take any nugget from today get that book, read it. It's really, really good. The sixth strategy and the last one for this part A is practicing de-stress all day long. And the way you can do that is the feeling of comfort, warmth, relaxation. These are all different tips for self-care. Try to consume, and if you're a tea drinker, great. If you're not to worry, but this is one tip that I find to be very helpful, is planning your day around a relaxational de-stress tea. There's lots of different versions here: lavender, chamomile, lemon, peppermint, ginger. You can get ginger root at the grocery store really cheap. Just take off the shavings and slice it into really small pieces and put it in with hot water. A really, really, again, great example of ways in which you can consume things that can help you feel really, really good. Hope you've enjoyed these first 6 tips of part A of de-stressing with self-care tips, and I look forward to sharing with you the part B. Thanks for listening.